It's time for a Matcha Talk.
Assalamu
Assalamualaikum.
alaikum.
So I am in my very comfy spot, and it is in a very new place as usual. Even though I live in a small little spot, I always move around
I
and
was gonna
have new
say it's the
areas.
same apartment. You're just moving from like 1 inch to another, and
And that
somehow
makes all the
every episode
difference.
is new.
It makes all the difference, I'm telling you. And today that's what we're going to be talking about too, the big things in life and the small things in life. So I know you watched something and you were going to tell me about it. And then I had something that happened to me. And actually, it was a quote that I saw. And it just, it just kind of got me thinking about things from a different kind of perspective. You hear it, started from the bottom, now we're here, but what does that really mean? Like, is that, is that really true? So we're going to be delving into that, and so I was most definitely had to be in a comfier spot than usual. And just a little announcement for our listeners as well. We are on YouTube, in case y'all forgot. We are on all your podcasting devices as well, or applications. So you can find us anywhere at Matcha Talk. Hit us up on Instagram. We are here to answer your questions. We would love to hear from you. So, otherwise, Samia Baji, you tell me what happened.
Yes. Man, I feel bad because I feel there are so many episodes we've had where we talk about TV shows and stuff. Oh, I actually have something to say before I begin. I
Hmm.
just want to clear up the air. A few episodes back, we talked about an Indian movie. I forgot the name of the episode. Do you remember the name of the episode?
Nope.
Daisy Truths. Yes. It was in the Daisy Truths episode. And we watched an Indian movie, and I was talking about the Muslim representation in there, and it was a little bit upsetting. The movie that was Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, for those who know. And so I just want to clear the air because I watched another one, Kuch Kuch yes, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, which is also at the same time period. And the Muslim representation was very nice. I just wanted
Hey.
to put it out there, be like, you know what? I was hating on something, and that's not always true.
See?
And it was good. It was like maybe, it was literally, I think, a 5 minute scene. And it was nice and respectful, and it was good.
There we go. It's not all bad. See, guys? See?
But hang on. So every time we've had a lot of episodes talking about TV shows, and I think, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, in this pandemic time, I find myself watching TV more than I want to. And especially now that my husband is actually away for a couple of weeks. And I find myself sitting in front of Netflix and binge watching stuff sometimes. And
Ooh.
so I started, I'm just, putting it out there because sometimes people think that we are a certain way, right? So I just want to put it out there that we all are imperfect. And my imperfection right now is binge watching Netflix. And so this topic that's coming out right now is derived from a show I was watching. I used to watch the show a long time ago. It's called Private Practice. And I remember like some scenes about it, like the Mage story, but I just didn't really remember anything. And I was like, I need to watch some doctor stuff. I like doctor hospital stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to start watching it. So I started watching this show. I got into season 3, and then after that, I was done. Like, okay, that's over. I can't handle this anymore. It was just too much of, but there were some things that were just too much. The first thing I just want to say, and maybe this is a Shonda Rhimes world. Shonda Rhimes is also the creator for Grey's Anatomy, and I always feel like she creates this universe where you have all these characters, and they're so good friends that they will pick their friends over their family,
Oh, snap.
like all the
Loyalty.
time. Yeah, because the friends become like family, and they will literally do anything for them. And I'm like, the first, while I started thinking about it when I was used to watch Grey's Anatomy, and I was like, hey, is this for real? Like this type of friendship, like, is this? I mean, does it really exist? I don't know. I mean, does it really exist? This friendship where you're like so tight that you would give up your kidneys for them, like. So I just wondered about that. But one of the things in this private practice, we have all these talk about um, Okay, so compare that to our upbringing or our culture upbringing with the Desi upbringing, where you have these movies and TV shows and dramas where a person just falls in love with one person and it's like that's it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's like I love her, I love him, I have to be with them, and if not, sometimes they end up, I don't know, it's
Yo,
committing things with
eloping. That's a
no,
classic.
not. I was talking about eloping. I was talking about like sometimes they even like take their own life as a
Oh,
response because
Romeo
they're not.
Juliet style.
Yeah, but I mean no, not always, right? Because one of them tends to be like with somebody else, and one of them is like a forlorn, unrequited
But
love, as they say.
why doesn't he love me? I will kill
Yes,
myself for attention. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how big of a trope that is, but I know I've seen it
I
somewhere.
don't know. So it's so amazing because in this series, the main character, Addison Montgomery, is a doctor. The- she, she falls in love so many times. I mean, there it's just like okay. So there's this specific one scene where it's like forbidden love, as they say, because that guy was a husband's patient's husband, and I mean this is wrong, right? This is wrong on so many levels, and so she knows that it's wrong, and she's like, oh, I am so heartbroken. And she's heartbroken because she loves him so much. Like she's like, this is just too painful. And this is not the first time this has happened, and not the last. And then a few episodes down the road, or maybe then not even the next season, dude. A few episodes down the road, she's moving on with her life, and then she's falling just as hard for another person. So I'm like, what is up with this? Like, you don't have any loyalty towards your own emotions, you know? I don't know. That was
I
one
don't
thing I want to share, but
know.
there's another one that's actually a little bit more substance than this.
Okay, hold on though. Hold on. I got something to say about this. I remember one of my favorite movies, just it's just a classic and it's close to my heart, is the animated from Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki for life. His movie, The Howl's Moving Castle. So one of the weirdest things I found from that movie, and I just can never quite put my finger on it, and it's similar to this, the whole thing, the main character, it's about character development. It's about a little bit more than just what I'm about to say, but quite a lot of it is the main character assisting the other main character and helping him grow up, basically. I mean, he cast a magic spell on himself and was literally stuck as a child, and she had to break that spell. Okay, literally growing up, that was what it was. And obviously she ended up falling for him. He ends up falling for her, and they like each other, and it kind of ends there. On the way, she ends up helping someone else, and at the end that person returns, total side character, unexpected, and it's just like, what in the world just happened? But he says something along the lines of, you never know where your heart will turn, so I'll be back, or something like this. So basically he left implying, hey, y'all might break up and I'm gonna be there for that. That's what he said. Now, realistic, sure, but what I don't understand, kind of, when I first saw this movie, was from the Desi perspective, from like Bollywood. You live and you die with that person, you know? Like, that's it. There's no in between. And to be seeing this, where this guy's like, don't worry, you guys, I mean, sure, you love him now, but I'll be back and maybe then you'll love me. So not only is he suggesting that she's gonna go through heartbreak, he's suggesting that, like, they're just, I mean,
I don't know.
yeah,
I'll
that's
be
what he's
offended by
suggesting.
that. Honestly, I'll be okay. I'll share something a little bit personal here. So, when I was getting married to my husband, who was not from our culture, and he is also a convert, I there were some things in the air like that. There was like, oh yeah, it's not gonna last. You know, oh yeah,
Wow,
in
that's
case,
so
yeah,
rude.
sure, you're together now, but things can change, things happen, blah blah blah. So I'm putting myself in that perspective. I'm like, you know what, that's just extremely rude of you to say.
You're right.
If it doesn't work out, I'll be there for you. It's like, you know what, if it doesn't work out, I'll be sure not to go with you. In this
but
case, I didn't like this about you right now.
but the idea, what I'm trying to say though, like, is realistic in the sense that people do go in and out of relationships, fine. But to say it like that, it was a little rude. But also, what you're talking about in private practice is like when you're going through it, is it really that, like, oh my God, my life is over? He's already married. What am I gonna do? And then psych, same level of intensity in a relationship with someone else. Like, I don't know how realistic that is, but it is definitely rude. I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
just weird to
I think
me.
we're looking at two different perspectives, two different extremes, not perspective. One extreme is live and die with that person if, with that person or for that person. And on
Shakespeare
the other
style.
hand, it's just moving on. It's just moving on and just falling over again, moving on, falling in love again. And I don't know if it's, I don't know, like, do people really do this? I don't know. I think that's, I mean,
I
wow,
mean that.
that's
Hold on,
painful.
hold on. Isn't that the whole dating culture in at least America? I can say. Is that not
Well,
it?
dating culture, I wouldn't say that that's a dating culture. That's not how I see it because even then they're like, "Oh no, we haven't said the L word to each other." And then
True,
sometimes
but
it's like,
they
"Oh,
do,
if we
and then they still break up sometimes.
yeah,
I mean, there's
sometimes that
no.
also happens." But there's this still idea that okay, falling in love happens in a while. It doesn't happen immediately, like generally speaking. It's like, oh, sometimes people say I love you too soon, and then they show their relationships. They're like, wow, that was too early. I ain't not that deep,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah. That
causes it.
happens. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, but that sounds rough, honestly. Falling in love and out, and then love and out, heartbreak, and I mean, we can only take so much, really. Another thing that I wanted to talk that I saw in private practice was actually something really, and I think it kind of connects because this falling in a lot of love and all this relationship and stuff, like this is all happening outside of a faith based understanding of life. And I think that, when you are together with a person where there is that Allah's, blessings in that relationship, then it doesn't happen this way. I mean, I really believe that when there's barakah in a relationship, it just doesn't end and start like that. I mean, it can. There are marriages that do, and they're very good people, and they separate, and that is fine. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but just this, like, I don't know, this unhealthy attachment, this unhealthiness and painfulness that you see. I think it has a lot to do with not having faith in it. And one thing that I saw, there was this scene where there was a little girl and she had terminal cancer and things were not improving for her, and she was like, I am so tired of being treated. I'm so tired of chemotherapy all the time. I just want to go to the beach. So she had this moment where there was hope. Hope was given to her that it might work. And then, but the surgery didn't pan out. And she was like, oh my God, this is all over again. I just can't take this anymore. I just wanna be able to see the beach at least once. I mean, that's what she wanted. So she's on her deathbed basically. I want to refuse the treatment because I just want to live the my rest of the life the best way I can. But she was a girl and she just wanted to play on the beach. And I was like, subhanallah, how amazing is this? Because in her case, she's like, this is a TV show. But in her case, she's looking at this as an end all. She's like, I'm going to die and I will never be able to see the beach. I just want to see the beach that everyone talks about. And I'm like, no, actually, in your age, because she's prepubescence, I'm like, you're gonna see all the beaches that you want in Jannah. Like they don't have that concept. Like, and I was seeing her so living in so much misery and pain. I just want to, and all the doctors are feeling bad, and there's this ethical thing that, oh, should you take away the treatments because she's a girl and she's a minor, and what the parents want. And I was like, subhanallah, if they were Muslims, man, they'd be like, you know what, you're set. You're gonna see all the beaches, all the beautiful things that we can't even imagine. They're gonna be there for you.
That is so true. I did not know that's where we were going with this, but I agree. I agree. I mean, especially in the first aspect too, I 100% agree. I don't understand the point of going into a relationship. I mean, even if, take religion out of it, going into a relationship and becoming so attached with someone only with kind of the what's it called? Like the hammer over your head always, in the sense, hey, this could end at any moment, like there's just no, there's just no, it seems intense right now, but I mean, even if the L word has been said, there's nothing concrete and anything can happen. So let's go
Well, I want to
through
share
it
something.
10 billion times. And
I
then,
want to share something about this. Like, okay, actually, I shared this recently on my Instagram post because this is something that I did exactly what you're saying in a relationship. In the beginning when I was married, I was literally waiting for anything negative to happen. Because Alhamdulillah, our relationship was and is Alhamdulillah very good. But in the beginning, in my immaturity of understanding how this all works or how life is and how Allah is and who Allah is, I was literally like, you know what? This can end at any time. And I was afraid of it ending. And I'm like, I'm just gonna enjoy it the best way I can because I know that this is going to change. It's not going to be this happy anymore. Things are gonna happen and we're gonna be unhappy because that's just a roller coaster of life. And I was anticipating that. And that was so wrong. Subhanallah, how wrong that is. And I mentioned that in my Instagram post too. Allah says, I am as my servant thinks as I am. So am I anticipating Allah to be taking away my happiness? Is that what I'm anticipating? Or am I expecting that if I'm grateful, then He will increase me in it?
right.
You know? So
And
I think the spirituality part is huge.
100% agree with this. And I think that if you put religion back into the scenario that I was speaking of, or any religion, I think, having that faith that, we don't have to get intense right now. Like, Allah will do what needs to happen, and that'll be that. I don't need to go through this roller coaster 5 billion times, which people do. They go through a lot of
Yes.
stuff in these relationships and breakups, and I've seen it, man. It's rough. I don't understand why people do that to themselves. And then eventually they'll find someone where, yeah, if it was just you living your life solo, yeah, that would be what you would have to do, but you got Allah on your back, so why would you do that to yourself? But that's my perspective. But on the second perspective, similar thought process here. That Allah will take care of you in the hereafter. Let's not stress about what's happening in my last moments. At the end of the day, Allah has said before um that time, if you are to pass away, there we go, you got a free ticket, see all the beaches, drink all the wines, as they say. Like, just it'll be fine, it'll be okay. But
Yeah,
that's the thing, is like
I wonder if if it
trusting.
was a person like that, if a little girl like that, if you could tell her that and like if that would make her feel better. Like I wonder.
I
You're
mean,
gonna meet Allah and you're gonna meet Ibrahim alayhi salam and he will take care of you and you're gonna see all the beautiful things. And I wonder if that will calm that person.
I don't know. That is a good question. I know I would, if I believe it, I would be calmed by that idea. You just need some sort
Yeah.
of solace. I think it's scarier to imagine, and I have tried to imagine it, but it is really scary to imagine that this is it. And that would
Mm-hmm.
also explain a lot of things that you see, a lot of actions that you see people do, a lot of things like that. Definitely, it explains that. But I don't agree with it. It's too scary, and logic and religion, like, everything aside, just it's just too scary. So even having, if you believe it, hearing the idea that after this I'll be taken care of, especially if at that young age where you're more open to these kinds of ideas. If your parents just tell you, you say yes, that kind of thing. And if your parents are telling you this is reality, that's what's gonna happen, it'll be fine, it'll be great, it's gonna be easy breezy from here. I don't know, I would find solace in that, theoretically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Theoretically.
If I mean the thing is that, in this case we're talking about a girl. In our case we're adults. So there's no guarantee, but
Exactly.
there is a lot of hope. There's a lot of hope. And and lastly, the last thing I wanted to share was about this series is this idea that there is so much arrogance in the doctors. Subhanallah, so much arrogance. It's like it's unbelievable that like, I have to save this life. There was this moment where it was one main doctor. She's like the best doctor because Shonda Rhimes has all the best doctors. So she's like the best doctor in the whole universe probably. And she's like, I have to save the baby and I have to save the mother. And they both are in their own hospital things. And she's going back and forth because she's like, I can't afford this. I cannot lose this. I have to save them. And she's like, oh, if I don't save them, then I'm going to feel so awful because it's a very close relationship going on, like situations, right? And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Since when do you think you save somebody? And they say this so many times, so much arrogant, like, I have to be the one. I am the only one who can do this. And it's like, oh, I'm your best chance. And I'm like, wow, like, what is this? So much
Right.
arrogance.
Absolutely. And this kind of idea permeates definitely in health science. I've seen it too. You're right. The idea that I am the one saving someone, it is through you that someone is being saved. And this definitely, yeah, I've heard a lot of things about it. People do have concerns with this. From a faith perspective, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is your knowledge that is assisting that individual. But at the end of the day, the fact that you didn't sneeze at that moment, I mean, like,
Yes,
for example,
exactly. Your
or
finger didn't
especially
spasm.
especially with babies, anything can happen. It's just so up in the air with babies in general. And you can focus on the mom with all of your technical knowledge and just say, Allah will take care of the child, and I will do what I can, and the rest is up to the child, or Allah. The child is up to Allah, and that helps you make better decisions too, because you're just like, oh, it's not on me.
No, it was amazing how much that her own arrogance agonized her. I mean, she was agonized because she's like, if I
Yeah.
lose one of them, that it's gonna be over. And I was like, I mean, why are you killing yourself? It's not in your hands. Why don't you give it to somebody else? You
That's what
know,
I
it's
mean.
not in your
Like,
hands.
it's
Yeah.
people feel so burdened and are not able to make the best decisions. Whereas if you were able to say, for example, if it was a coworker, right? You're like, oh, she's gonna help me. She is actually she specializes in XYZ. This is the issue that I'm having. She will take care of this issue, and I will take care of this issue. Boom, you're set. Your mind is just honed in on what you need to focus on. Why can't we treat Allah in the same manner, in that, okay, Allah specializes in these things. Allah knows what he's doing, and I can only try my best in this manner. So I'm gonna leave it up to Allah. I'm gonna calm myself down, less stress on me, and make better decisions
Yeah.
in that way. But you're right, people get so caught up, and it was my decision, and people died because of me, and it's kind of, death was written for them at whatever time, and is through you, and that's just the reality of it. But there was another thing I wanted, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, was a little bit about arrogance as well. So I read someone's perspective. Now, I know everyone has heard of this. I became something from nothing, right? 0 to 100, started from the bottom, worked my way up. Um, there's so many kinds of phrases and euphemisms for this, but the idea that at the beginning you had absolutely nothing, and now you are here because of solely your own effort. And now y'all can probably guess where I'm about to go with this, but you're right. And you're right. Um, but also, let's say, before you were born, there were particular circumstances of your parents. At the end of the day, you have a mother and a father, X and Y chromosome somewhere, right? They were involved, whatever their circumstances were, their decisions led to you being born. A. So that wasn't you. Whatever their circumstances were is what you were born into. B. Again, not you. However they raised you, you couldn't even speak, walk, talk, go to the bathroom, right? You couldn't even do all of these things. It was all on someone else. So, see, that's another complete not on you. And all of this, as you're growing up as a human being, whatever your circumstances may be, if you had a family, you didn't have a family, you were with whatever kind of situation you were in, that was not up to you, right? And that was from something. That was something. Whatever that circumstances was, it wasn't a nothing, a circumstance.
Also like genetics, right? Like yeah, we were talking about parents, but also genetics. I mean, what what say did you have in not having this genetic anomaly where you had a syndrome of some sort, right? Like no
Right.
control over that either.
What
Mm-hmm.
is your predisposition? And you know what? That's not even necessarily a negative thing, which a lot of the times that's what it's seen as. For example, if you have some sort of a negative genetic, I say negative, but if you have some sort of a genetic predisposition for XYZ condition and you have that condition, that is a struggle that you have lived with and you have learned to overcome. You have learned the skill of overcoming because of this circumstance that was beyond you. So to say that I have become able, for example, I have become able to overcome the struggles in my life all on my own. I mean, this struggle, this first struggle that you had to overcome wasn't given to you or wasn't just, it was given to you. This is what I'm trying to say. It happened. It was a circumstance. It was something that you had. If you didn't have that struggle then and there as you had it, you wouldn't have learned to overcome it in that particular way, which for the reason why now you're saying that's what I learned to do. So this idea that I became something, I am here now because of all of my own efforts. No one else had a hand in this. I think, it's something easy, and that's why I'm kind of just glossing over it. But it's very easy to say, I think, your family, your circumstances, parents, siblings, your immediate family, circumstances, wherever you were living, however you were living. But also, even beyond that, which is what I'm focusing on, is that those things that were given to you by Allah. Yes, some of them were difficult. There were tests and there were trials for you to overcome so that you may learn to overcome, for example. So that, I think, is the same kind of thing, is so arrogant that people say. And I have to say, I never really thought of it in that way. I was like, okay, yeah, people work hard for whatever they need to achieve. Cool, you work hard on your own. I used to think this as well, but maybe not to this extent. I never quite viewed it like this. I still knew that there's, who I am as a person is so based on how I grew up and the circumstances in which I grew up. So I have never been like, oh, I'm gonna become
I'm hearing,
great from
yeah, I'm
nothing.
hearing a lot of this sentiment, especially now in this age that we're in, where there's a lot of racial injustice and all that stuff happening. I'm hearing
Mm,
a lot of this, especially, I don't know, either, on one side where people are like, and rightfully so, that they're at an inherent disadvantage. And then on the other side, who don't want to recognize the inherent disadvantage, they don't want to see that. They don't want to see color. They don't want to see inequality. They're like, yeah, well, I did it too. You know, I am also a self-made man or a woman, and well, in some cases, it's like we're talking about racial injustice. So, they could be a black man or a woman, and they're like, yeah, well, I am also black, and look at me. I have a great job. I have a great life, and I'm totally fine. And all of that, like I haven't really heard this sentiment as much as I have in this time period. So I'm like, what is that in response to? Like, are you, I feel like there's something deeper in there. I just don't know what that is. Obviously there's arrogance involved, and there's just, so it's arrogance, but then I don't know. I just don't know
it's
what there's deeper, and I want to understand that a little bit more. Why did they say that?
like a little bit of lack of faith, right? I mean, if you don't think that there is anything above you or beyond you, it was just me and myself. There wasn't anyone else involved.
But also not recognizing the reality of what the other opposing side is saying. So it's kind of like, it's like, what is that?
Yeah, no, reiterate that scenario for me.
Well, in this case, what I'm specifically referring to is that you have, okay, let's to get two first people of color on both ends. You have one
Mm-hmm.
person of color who was like, you know what? I have been at a disadvantage since birth because of the situation that is in this country. That there are
Mm-hmm.
people who are not able to do things, um, when they could have, only because we're giving a certain burden to carry from the beginning, right? And so they're like,
Mm-hmm.
this is circumstances XYZ. And then on the other hand, another person of color who disagrees with this, they're like, you know what? No, that is not true, because I'm also that person of color. And look at me. I have a great job. I have a great family. I live in a good community. I have all these cars and foods and whatever. I am set. So all it requires is for you to want it bad enough and to put in the effort, and then you're given it. So I'm like, this person is not only ignoring what the other person is saying, other person's reality, but that is a reality. Statistically, it's true. But they're also saying that, oh yeah, I did all of this because I wanted it bad enough. And I'm like, what is this? What level of arrogance is that?
I I don't know what to say about this. I have mixed feelings. I really get both of these sides. I really, really get both of these sides. One, but I think the thing that the second viewpoint is missing here is the understanding that sometimes even when people try as hard as you did because of that extraneous circumstance, they just can't,
And in
right?
the end,
And
you were able to do all of this because Allah willed it for you. Don't but just be
yeah,
pretending, oh, I wanted it bad enough, that's why I got it. No, it's
yeah.
because Allah wrote it for
Your
you.
your circumstance was not the same. You did not have the same family. You did not have the same people growing up with you. You did not have the same house growing up in. Like, and all of that makes a huge difference. Huge difference. So for you to say that I have the same, I also grew up in the projects, and yo, like every project's different. Every family's different. All the morals and values, all of that is different. So again, for you to say that I made it all on my own as far as I've made it, no.
When it comes to even schools
but I
and
get
teachers
it.
having their, yeah, I know, I get it, but that, I don't know, I don't get it at all. I mean, you're in a school setting and you're a child and you have, different colors in this room, and the teacher has a bias, and she sees, you and your light skin, and she's like, oh yeah, that person is definitely smart and has a brighter future than a person who's not, and in this case is a black person. And then obviously that attention that they give you, and this is proven that the attention, how much the teachers believe in their students, has an impact on their productivity and what they actually achieve. It directly impacts them. And I mean, even in this level where you're dependent, you're saying, oh yeah, this is how I did, I am on my own. I'm like, dude, no, someone else's biases even helped you to be where you are, and you don't even know about that. And then for you to say that the same bias did not disadvantage another person, I mean, that's just inaccurate. It's just not
I
true.
I think that's just what the second viewpoint is missing. This understanding that there is something else. It's not just
Because the
you in
second
the
viewpoint
world.
is seeped, it's seeped in arrogance. And we saw, like in private practice, I mentioned, that person is in agony because of it. There's nothing good that comes out of arrogance. It makes you not see the world as it is. It makes you become like, you look down on other people, you know, and then you think
Mm,
you're on top of this world because of you. And then what accident happens? You lose a limb or something happens, and suddenly it's like, oh no, my world is shifted. I cannot believe it. Well, that was written for you. This was written for you too, by the same being or same creator who wrote the other side too, you know?
right.
So let's just be a little bit more empathetic and give others of your blessings that you have, rather than just be like, oh yeah, well, I own it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's another key point that you hit on is the lack of empathy, right? I mean, not only are you unwilling to understand or unwilling to accept that there is something else, kind of, the fabric of the world is multi-layered. There your effort can only take you so far. Everything else that you grew up in is can only take you so far, and then Allah will take you, or the Creator will take you the rest of the way. Not understanding these layers, and these are just a few of the layers. Not understanding that, I think, is definitely arrogance, but also keeps you from having that softness in your heart to be able to empathize with others, to be able to really put yourself in another person's shoes, to really consider, hey, this person actually might have tried as hard as I did. I am not the one who's tried the hardest in the world. They might have done more than I did, but they're just
Mm-hmm.
not able to get that far. And shoot, I wonder why. But instead of focusing on what they're lacking, on what they're missing, on what they might not understand, they're kind of very narrow, in terms of their focus is very narrow. It's just me,
You know,
my experience.
yeah.
I had it the roughest, and if I can do it, then anybody can. But I mean, did you really have it the roughest? I
And
don't
subhanallah, this is so
know.
amazing because I think for a while, before, I never really truly understood. Because, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says that if a person has even a mustard seed of arrogance in their heart, then they will not enter paradise. And I was like, I mean, why is arrogance such a big thing? And obviously we see arrogance in shaitan, in Iblis story, right? And I just didn't really understand how evil, like why is it so evil until now, as an adult, as someone who's looking at things, it actually hurts other people. It
Mhm.
breaks down societies. It damages people.
Mhm.
And not only is damaging yourself, it clearly is because now you're in agony either, or you're living in this deluded world, and then you're harming other people too. It's like, wow, I get it. Why is such an evil thing to have even a little bit of arrogance in your heart?
Absolutely. I think it's just going back to having a hard heart, as they say in Islam, having a very heart of stone. Something like this is also kind of a universal phrase. But having
A
such a
black
heart,
heart. Yeah.
oh, sure, all of them, but having a heart that you're just not able to understand another person's perspective, not able to see the other side of the world because you're so caught up in yourself. And that's what arrogance is.
Yeah.
Such arrogance, defined, is such a extreme focus on yourself, seeing yourself as a height of anything. So that
You know, I'm gonna
really hardens your heart,
I'm
I
gonna
think.
see the arrogance definition you for defined.
Oh, oh, man, you're gonna put me on the spot like this.
No, no, I
It's
put
not what I was
arrogance.
expecting.
The dictionary arrogance says noun, the quality of being arrogant. So let me look for arrogant, having or revealing an exaggerated sense of one's own importance or abilities. I actually really love that it says exaggerated, recognizing that it's exaggerated. It's not your own ability. It's you're
Absolutely.
exaggerating your own
And
abilities.
and you know what? Even if you don't want to think that there is another being out there, fine. Again, the where you are, how you got here was multi-layered. You and your effort only so far. The circumstance only so far. People around you took you there only so far. There's still so many things that helped you get where you are. Cause what if your best friend, where and you come from a society where friends are everything, and you will choose friends over family. What if your friend was going through something, some serious stuff, and you had to put everything aside for them like that? What if that had happened to you? And
Mm-hmm.
and if it happened once, maybe it happened, more times. What if those kinds of concerns happened to you repeatedly? The fact that they didn't, that is also, and you can call that karma, whatever you want to call it, even if it's not religious, or understanding that there's a creator. That's fine. Whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, the fact that that didn't happen, I mean, come on, man. Just own it. It's not just you. It's never just you. It's never just you. I don't know how else
Well,
to
it
say
is my hope.
it.
It is my hope that that we were preaching to the choir today. Inshallah, that none of us feel this way, that we are completely independent of anyone, and all that really matters is how much we put into life, because that's just part of the equation. It's not the whole thing. What we put into it matters, but it's not the whole thing.
Absolutely. And don't let that be underrated. What you put in it is colors the circumstances, colors the world, and you should color it in a beautiful colors, you know?
Swarna, I really love our podcast because I really feel that we just don't have topics that are just bland, like we're just talking to talk. I feel like we actually get into things, and hopefully even at the end of the podcast ourselves, we turn out better than we were before. You know, I just
Yes.
listening to it.
Here we
That's the whole
go.
perspective.
Leave
Yeah.
on a positive note. Color the world with all of your positivity, y'all, and stop with the Romeo and Juliet. We're not in a play, right? People, let's have some empathy. Fill our hearts with love for each other and positivity, and it's okay. Life will go on.
And don't forget to visit us on Instagram at Matcha Talk. We are posting regularly there. And don't forget also that we are on YouTube. All of our audios, podcasts are also up there. So you can reach us in any way, including say salams. Scroll down, say salam, let us know. Maybe there is a moment in your life where you felt that little evil of arrogance entering into your heart, because I know it happens to all of us. That's just something that we constantly fight against. Maybe, and how you overcame that. We would love to definitely hear that from you about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we might, if you give us permission, if you would like to share the story with the world, we will. We'll talk about it. We can give you, or basically, we can give everyone else an insight into what happened with you and have a discussion about it. So definitely communicate with us. We want to hear from you and your circumstances. We've talked a little bit about private practice. Tell us
And
about the
binge
real
watching.
world. Yeah, tell us about the real world,
Yes.
y'all. All right.
Thank you very much for having matcha with us. We will talk to you next time.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.